Srila Prabhupada is here established as the Acharya of this temple. So it is only fitting, as I am his disciple, that I speak his words. I first take permission from my spiritual master, allowing me, because I read this week, I read an incident where Sanjaya is trying to convince his master Dhritarashtra how he should not fight the battle and give the kingdom, their share, to the Pandavas. So Dhritarashtra's father appears at this time, and Sanjaya says, "My dear Gurudev, in your presence, would you allow me to speak to your son, my master, Dhritarashtra?" And Vyasadeva gives his blessing. So I found that very significant, that Sanjaya took permission first from his guru before speaking. So my guru is here, Srila Prabhupada is here, so I have to take permission from him. So here's how Prabhupada narrates this section. Again, I entitled this section, Krishna Instructs the Gopis on the Highest Philosophy of Life. Again, let's invoke the 12-syllable mantra together. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Again, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. One more time. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. As far as the gopis of Vrindavan were concerned, from the very beginning of their lives, the gopis did not know anything beyond Krishna. Krishna and Balaram were their life and soul. The gopis were so attached to Krishna that they could not even tolerate not seeing Krishna momentarily when their eyelids blinked and impeded their vision. The gopis condemned Lord Brahma, the creator of the body, because Brahma foolishly made eyelids which blink and checked the gopis from seeing Krishna. The gopis had become separated from Krishna for so many years. And the gopis, having come along with Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda, felt intense ecstasy in seeing Krishna, just like perhaps you also feel intense ecstasy when you come before Sri Sri Radha Raman. If you do, you are very fortunate. You're following in the footsteps of the gopis. As soon as Krishna became visible to them, they took Krishna inside their hearts through their eyes and embraced Krishna to their full satisfaction. So just see, there is no impediment. If you have love for Krishna, you have the ability to take Krishna and embrace him in your heart. Even though the gopis were embracing Krishna only mentally, the gopis became so ecstatic and overwhelmed with joy that for the time being, the gopis completely forgot themselves. So that is what we call oneness. This is true oneness. That they are seeing Krishna in their hearts, they're embracing him. They forget themselves, but they still have their individual existence. And because they're feeling that love, there is oneness. Prabhupada now comments, the ecstatic trance which the gopis achieved simply by mentally embracing Krishna is impossible to achieve even for great yogis constantly engaged in meditation. And that's why Lord Chaitanya said, the gopis are the greatest mystic yogis. Because Wherever they are, all they do is remember Krishna. Krishna could understand that the gopis were wrapped in ecstasy by embracing him in their minds. And therefore, since Krishna is present in everyone's heart, Krishna also reciprocated their embracing from within. So this reminds us of Bhagavad Gita. Ye yata mang prapadyante tangs tataiva bhajamyaham. Krishna declares in chapter 4, as you surrender to me, as you serve me, I reciprocate. So, the gopis had this intense love for Krishna, embracing him in their hearts. Krishna reciprocated. This is why I love Krishna, because he reciprocates. There are many reasons why I love Krishna, but this is one. He reciprocates. Krishna had been sitting with Mother Yashoda and others, like Devaki and Rohini. But when the mothers engaged in talking, Krishna took the opportunity and went to a secluded place to meet the gopis. As soon as Krishna approached the gopis, he began to smile. Is Krishna smiling here in our temple? I came earlier and I looked at Krishna and he looked like he was smiling at me. Is he smiling at you? Very good. He began to smile, and after embracing the gopis and inquiring about their welfare, Krishna began to encourage the gopis. So it appears now, once he's there with them alone, he embraces them. So it's reached a higher level. So now they're going to have a confidential talks. So here is what Krishna tells. Keep in mind, he has not seen the gopis for years and years and years. Just like you've had this experience. You have not seen your parents or your children after a long time. And then when you reunite, such a wonderful feeling. So try to imagine. They have not been with Krishna, and now they're reunited. Krishna says, my dear friends, you know that both Lord Balaram and myself left Vrindavan just to please our relatives and family members. Thus, we were long engaged in fighting with our enemies, and were obliged to forget you who were so attached to me in love and affection. Yes, because after killing Kamsa, so many demons came, especially Jarasandha. Krishna had to fight Jarasandha 18 times, as well as other demons. Shalva, Shishupal, Dantava, so many demons Krishna was fighting. I can understand by this action that I may have been ungrateful to you, but still I know you are faithful to me. That's the key. That even though, for whatever reason, Krishna could not be present, the gopis never had any resentment towards Krishna. They loved him thick and thin. That's love. You love somebody, and you know you love somebody when there is hard times. There's actually a famous Sanskrit verse. What is love? Here's how it's explained. I don't remember the Sanskrit. But the verse goes like this. When there is sufficient cause for a relationship to be broken, but that relationship does not break, that is called real love. There may be a sufficient cause, but in spite of that, the love does not break. That is love. My dear gopis, may I inquire if you have been thinking of me and Balaram, although we had to leave you behind. My dear gopis, I wonder, do you now dislike remembering me, considering me to be ungrateful to you? Do you take my misbehavior with you seriously? After all, you should know it was not my intention to leave you. Our separation was ordained by Providence, who, after all, is the supreme controller and does as he desires. Now, this is funny, because who is Providence? Krishna. So Krishna is referring to himself as something separate. You could say Providence is super soul, because in the material world, everything is controlled by Paramatma. Paramatma is the one who sanctions everything going on. Today there were big football games played. And so Krishna was the one throwing the flag. Krishna was the one was doing everything. And then somebody wins, somebody loses. Okay, we'll leave. We won't go any further. So providence or destiny or fate simply means the hand of God. So here Krishna is referring, when he says providence, he's referring to himself as Paramatma Supersoul. Providence causes the intermingling of different persons and again disperses them as he desires. Now Krishna gives an analogy to help us understand this concept. He says, sometimes we see that due to the presence of clouds and a strong wind, atomic particles of dust and broken pieces of cotton are intermingled together. And after the strong wind subsides, all the particles of dust and cotton are again separated, scattered in different places. Similarly, the Supreme Lord is the creator of everything. The objects which we see are different manifestations of his energy. Again, Krishna referring to himself in the third person. This is why I love Krishna. In my American lingo, we say he's cool. That's how you explain. I don't know how you would say it in Hindi, but that's the concept. By his supreme will, we are sometimes united and sometimes separated. We can therefore conclude that ultimately we are absolutely dependent on his will. So this is why we are not God. Because if we were God, like Krishna, we could arrange and do anything. But we're not. But yes, Krishna, he can do anything. There's no limit. That's why last month when I was here, I spoke on first verse of Bhagavatam, and I mentioned a very important word, swarat. Those of you who listened, Krishna has complete independence, not us. Our independence is limited. But Krishna's independence is absolute. Nothing can check him. Nothing. As an example, I mentioned Jarasandha. So when Krishna fought Jarasandha for the 18th time, Krishna manifested another pastime called, what's that pastime called? Ranchorji. Gujaratis know this very much, Ranchorji. I believe there are temples in Gujarat. Okay? So Krishna supposedly ran away from the battle. He didn't run away. Krishna was waiting for a text message from Rukmini. And he didn't want to have to bother with this Jarasandha. So Krishna and Balaram, they went high up a mountain. and Jarasandha lit fires all around, thinking, I have finally defeated Krishna after 18 times, finally. He didn't. What did Krishna and Balaram? Now this mountain was more than 80 miles, right? Krishna and Balaram jumped off, landed far away, unscathed. Can you do that? No. That's why Krishna and Balaram are God. Swarat. Nothing can affect them. Let's go back. Krishna continues speaking to the gopis. Fortunately, you have developed loving affection for me, which is the only way to achieve the transcendental position of association with me. This is the highest philosophy. We're getting there. There's more. But here's number one. This is the same thing Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. I go through Bhagavad Gita every year, through and through. And it hasn't changed. I've been reading Bhagavad Gita now for more than 30, 40 years. And each time I read it, it doesn't change. So 3 times in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, you want to actually see me? Bhakti. You want to understand me? Bhakti. You want to come to me? Bhakti. Not karma, not jnana, not yoga. He specifically says bhakti. That's why Prabhupada says here, any living entity who develops unalloyed affection for Krishna. That's the highest position of life. So, previously, when Krishna was in Vrindavan, just before the Govardhan Leela, there was this episode with the wives of certain brahmanas who were doing a sacrifice. The brahmanas had no love for Krishna, because when the cowherd boys came asking for food in the name of Krishna and Balaram, they said, go away, we're too busy here. Can't you see we're doing a yajna? So Krishna told the cowherd boys, go to their wives. And as soon as the cowherd boys mentioned Krishna and Balaram, they arranged all kinds of food. They didn't give it to the cowherd boys. They personally brought the food and wanted to see Krishna and Balaram. And then they said to Krishna and Balaram, we know the philosophy. We may be less intelligent women, but we know the philosophy. And we know that if somebody surrenders to you, you're supposed to give them shelter. So we have come. We don't want to go home. Give us shelter. These were very smart ladies, because that's the actual philosophy. Krishna says, if you take shelter of me, I will protect you. And Krishna told these wives, no, you should go back. Your husbands need you. And again, they said, no, we don't want to go back. And they won't accept us anyway. We left. We want to stay with you here in Vrindavan. But Krishna said, no, you go back, which they did. At that time, Krishna said, affection for me is not developed just because you have my proximity, just because you're next to me. At that time, Krishna told, there is a regular process by which love of me is developed. What is that? That's the program of bhakti. Hearing, chanting, remembering, praying, worshiping the deity, worshiping Tulsi, all the various 64 items of bhakti. Did you know that? There are 64 items of bhakti. There are 9 processes, but there are 64. You're doing one right now. This is an item of bhakti, hearing about Krishna. I am also doing, I'm speaking about, that's one of the items. When we do the arti, how many people like to take prasadam? That's an item of bhakti. Don't underestimate it. Taking prasad is one of the 64 items. Why do you think I joined? Anyone who knows me, that's why I joined. Among other reasons, but in the initial seal dealer was prasad. Now Krishna says, any living entity who develops such unalloyed devotional affection for me certainly at the end goes back to home, back to Godhead. Otherwise, if you don't develop this affection for Krishna, you got to take birth again. So, the whole program, bhakti program, is to develop this love for Krishna and go to Krishna's abode. Krishna gives us an idea of his abode. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, Natad Basayate Suyo, Nashashanka Napavaka. There's no need of electricity, so there's no bills. No electric bills. No bills. Right? We have to pay so many bills. Not in Krishna Loka. And Krishna says, having reached there, you don't come back. So that's where we're going. Back home. Back to Godhead. In other words, unalloyed devotional service and affection for me are the cause of supreme liberation. Because there are different kinds of liberation. There's permanent and temporary. But this, what Krishna is referring to, the supreme liberation, means the topmost. There's nothing higher than this. Let's see what Krishna says now. Yes, now Krishna is going to get more philosophical. My dear Gopi friends, you may know from me that it is my energies only which are acting everywhere. Krishna explains this in chapter 9 of Bhagavad Gita. You know the line, Vasudeva Sarvam Iti. It's a famous line in chapter 7. But in chapter 9, Krishna explains, everything you see is my energy. It doesn't matter, material or spiritual. They are Krishna's energies. My favorite example, here you have a flame. The flame is one, but it's giving off energies. Light, right? You can see it. And, it's hot. So there's two energies from this single flame. This flame represents Krishna. But emanating from Krishna, not just two energies, Parasya Shakti Vividhaiva Suruyate, unlimited energies. But for all intents and purposes, we categorize them as two, material and spiritual. This is explained in 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. There are 8 separated material energies. So here he says, Krishna is going to say, here he says, take for existence an earthen pot. It is nothing but a combination of earth, water, air, fire, and sky. Those are the 5 gross elements. It is always of the same physical composites, whether in its beginning, its existence, or after annihilation. When it is created, the earthen pot is made of earth, water, fire, air, and sky. While it remains, it is the same in composition, and when it is broken and annihilated, its different ingredients are conserved in different parts of the material energy. Einstein had this theory: energy is not created or destroyed. This is what Bhagavad Krishna is saying. All energies come from me. They're ever existing. Right? As soon as I have the flame, the energies are there. So we've learned, or we should have learned, and we learned, I think, last month, Sri Sri Radha Raman Bhagavan Ki Jai, that Krishna always existed. And I might have said, probably I said last month, we also always existed, but not this existence. I was something different in my last life and the life before that. And same for you. So keep in mind, what you see in the mirror is only your current incarnation. You've had many incarnations before. Most likely you were a woman, you big men. Don't get so puffed up. Yes, we've had many lifetimes. This is not the first. And we will continue to have different lifetimes unless we achieve what was mentioned here, supreme liberation. How many want to achieve the supreme liberation? You've come to the right place. Yes. Similarly, at the creation of this cosmic manifestation, during its maintenance and after its dissolution, everything is but a different manifestation of my energy. This is Krishna speaking to the gopis. Everything is his. Same thing is there several times in Bhagavad Gita. 7th and 9th chapters specifically. Everything is Krishna's energy. And because the energy is not separate from me, it is to be concluded that I am existing in everything. So, whatever we see reminds us of Krishna because it's his energy. If I go to your house. So if I haven't been there, but say I go to your house, I will see you will probably have many nice things in your house. Right? But it's yours. I can't come to your house. Okay, I'll take that. You'll say, what's wrong with him? Right? You would think, what's wrong with him? It's yours. You've earned it. You have a right to it. Perfect. It's not mine. It's yours. Same way with the temple. This belongs to the temple. Doesn't belong to me. It's temple property. So in the same way, a person of spiritual consciousness, wherever they look, they say, oh, this is Krishna's. Therefore, even if I take a flower, I have to think, oh, it is Krishna's flower. I have to offer it to Krishna. Not that that's Rakshasa. Devotee sees a flower, but before enjoying, offer it to Krishna. Just like our food. We may cook nice, but we don't know. You all have I've been to your house. You have a nice little temple in your house. You offer your food, right? That's the bhakti path. Before taking, you offer to Krishna. Krishna continues. In the same way, the body of a living being is nothing but a composition of the 5 elements. And the living entity embodied in the material condition is also part and parcel of me. So the soul, the real you, Krishna claims in Bhagavad Gita as Prakriti, energy, female. And in 15th chapter, Krishna says, Mama eva angsha. You are my part and parcel. You have children, right? Those children are your angsha. They don't have a separate existence. They live independently, individually, but they came about because of you. So we come about because of Krishna. Therefore, that line, Mama eva angsha. Krishna claims us as his children. He claims us. It's like when you give birth to a child, at some point you say to the child, I am your mother. The child cannot investigate, oh, are you really my mother? No. It has to take the advice of the mother. Right? So, in the same way, How do we know that Krishna is our Shastra? Shastra is mother. The mother indicates, here is the mother knows who is the father. The mother knows who is the father. So Mother Vedas is pointing out, who is the father? Krishna. What does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita? Ahang bija pradak pita. Sanskrit word for father, pita. Krishna says, aham, I, bija. I am the seed-giving father of all living entities. So that's another verse to emphasize who our original source is. It's Krishna. Let's continue with Krishna. The living entity imprisoned in the material condition on account of his or her false conception of self as the supreme enjoyer. That's what we call Maya. I'm not the enjoyer. I am Krishna's servant. There's a difference between master and servant. The master is the enjoyer, and the servant serves the master. The relationship between Jiva and God is one of master and servant. Confirmed by Lord Chaitanya. Jivera Swarupahai Krishnera Nitya Das. That word Nitya Das means always servant. Some people think, oh, when I achieve liberation, I will become the master. That's not what the Vedas teach. You cannot change who you are. This here